Just forgive and forget? That's the advice that was given?
Well, that's easy for you to do, but not for me.
It's not. It's terrible advice, and we're gonna explore why. Mended Light. So this is Shit Therapists Say. This is where we ask our Mended Light community, you out there, for terrible advice that you've gotten from a therapist. And one of the things that comes up over and over and over again is the whimsical notion of forgiving and forgetting.
Let it go.
Let it go. Well, I think forgive, forget, like on the surface, it comes from a good place. Like the idea of, look, because it is true that without forgiveness, a relationship doesn't survive. I mean,
right. There has to be a component of forgiveness in all healthy relationships.
And as far as forgetting, there has to be a component of letting things go to move forward. So where does forgive and forget, when does that become a toxic idea instead of a helpful one?
Yeah, I think when we confuse forgiveness with trust, you forgive someone to let go of the hurt, let go of the pain.
And the bitterness and all the bile. And
Right.
Yeah.
Because if I'm going to hold on to the hurt, that's like me drinking poison and expecting the other person to die.
Yeah.
But forgiveness and trust aren't the same thing. I can forgive someone and still not trust them.
Yeah.
And that be quite healthy.
And you could forgive someone and never talk to them again, or you could forgive someone and not have a relationship with them anymore. Because we have this classical idea of forgiveness is we restore everything to the way it was.
Right. And it's not.
And that's not what forgiveness is. Forgiveness is our process of letting go, of moving forward, of releasing all that stuff inside. So that's not trust.
Yeah. So forgiving and forgetting is a component of bonding, but it isn't the solution.
Yeah. It sounds like building trust is.
Right. Well, that's an aspect of the solution. So I've been enjoying a couple of books by Greg Bear called Real Love. I read his book on child stress disorder first, and then I went on to some of his other ones, and I actually haven't read his book on marriage. But the premise of all his books is that we all have this innate need for love. And he defines love as unconditional love.
Yeah.
Right? So it's not a quid pro quo. It's not a this for that.
It's not transactional. It's not earned.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't have to earn love and worthiness. And he talks about how almost none of us actually experience this as children. And then all we know is what we do. And so we continue on with these dynamics with love in our life as we get older, and it absolutely affects our marriages. And so what that looks like...
Go ahead. I was just going to ask you, what does that look like for children not experiencing that? Can you give me some examples?
Oh,
because you were talking about it before, and I thought that was powerful. So what does that look like as children, the not experiencing unconditional love? Can you give me some examples?
Yeah. So just in the simplest form, right? Our kids spill a glass of milk, right? They track mud across the floor. They forget their homework at school. They don't feed the dog, right? All these things. And we respond to them in a way where we're frustrated, we're tired, we're annoyed,
We're overwhelmed, but what they feel is they're angry at me.
Yeah, they don't interpret that as, oh, mom's had a really hard day at work. She's stressed out about the bills. Her and dad are in a fight, and she just literally can't handle the mud on the floor. Like, it's the straw that broke the camel's back.
Yeah, what she sees is...
The child doesn't experience it from that perspective. The child experiences it from the perspective of love, not love, right?
Yeah.
And so when I do things that the people around me don't like or that are unacceptable, I'm not loved.
Yeah.
I am unlovable. I am unworthy.
I'm unacceptable, yeah.
Right. But when we do things that the people around us like, we get good grades. We clean up after ourselves. We say, yes, ma'am. We do what we're supposed to do.
Oh, man.
Then we're loved. Then we're worthy.
This is hitting me where I live, because with our kids, if they're doing what they're supposed to do, then it's so much easier to be happy with them and to be loving towards them. And when they're not, it's just like... Grr.
Right. So as children, we experience... Because it's not just one interaction.
Right.
And it's not that... As parents, we're parents now, that we're trying to harm our children. And as children, it's not that our parents were trying to harm us. There are people who are abusive sexually, physically, and that's awful. And so often we're just responding from our own traumas and so on and so forth. But for the most part, parents genuinely love their children, they care about their children, and they're trying to do the best they can. And the biggest challenge is they have never experienced unconditional love.
So how can they give it?
Right. And you can't do something you don't understand. You can't do something you don't even know exists.
Wow.
Right? And so
I should read this book.
And so as children, we come up with coping mechanisms. That's not what the author calls them. That's just what I call them.
Okay.
Right? And so we go through our coping mechanisms of, let's be honest, lying, right? I forget to do something. Do I take accountability and say, I'm sorry, I forgot to feed the dog?
Right.
No.
Or do I cover it up?
You cover it up. Because I don't want to experience being unlovable in that moment, right? So we all have behaviors where we try and get love. But see, all those things...
And when we make mistakes, we feel like I'm not going to get love, so I have to like withhold this or quickly fix it or,
Right. So we're basically just all on an unconscious level trying to fill our love bucket, right? Yeah. But we don't know what real love is. And so we go after imitation love, right? And so that looks like money, power, praise, sex, prestige. It's all those things that fuel us, but it's a facade. It's not real love. It will never fill your bucket.
And then marriage becomes like a quest to gain that acceptance, to have somebody in my life to continually validate me.
And so in marriage, it so often looks like imitation love, and we're trading imitation love back and forth. Right? We praise each other.
Do you accept me? Do I please you? Are you now disappointed in me? Are you now upset with me? Yeah.
And sex and money and finances is a huge component of that. And almost every marriage gets to a point where the trading of the imitation love is no longer working, or it's not enough, or it was less than it used to be, right? And then we're upset. And it's our partner's fault because they're not loving us the way they used to love us. But that wasn't real love. That was imitation love. And it was never going to fill our bucket in the first place.
Wow. And so you talk about this coming from childhood into adulthood. And it's not just in our families of origin. Because I know, for example, I have struggled with a lot of shame my entire life. Which is odd because I wasn't raised in shame. That wasn't the way my parents approached parenting, at least not to my memory. But I did socially... with other kids, I didn't fit in. I was bullied a lot. I would try and pattern my behavior such that I would be accepted, so that I could fit in, and it didn't work. And all through my formative years, like my entire kindergarten through middle school, was a failed quest to fit in. And I think on some deep level, there's a lack of belief in myself. There's a lack of confidence, which I know has translated into our marriage. Trust has been broken, and that's on me. In our marriage, and it hasn't been moral and it hasn't been abuse. It's been literally this quest for acceptance, quest for perfection, that if I could be good enough, then I could just feel like you love me and like I don't have to feel ashamed. And the issue with that is your natural just frustration about minor things to me would translate to I'm unlovable.
Right. And so in fairness, like when you didn't do something that I had asked you to do. Right.
Like, I'd forget, or I wouldn't get around to it, or I didn't start my day.
Or frankly, growing a therapeutic practice was never your dream.
Yeah.
Right? That was something that I said, here's what we're going to do. And so there was a lot of uncomfortable growth and expectations, if you will, that I put on you. And to my face, you said, yeah, let's do this. And you even included a few times that you were terrified and you didn't really want to.
So to be clear, back then I wanted to be a therapist and I loved being a therapist, but running a business or growing a business or managing a team, like that was all scary and I wasn't...
That was like a Mount Everest in your life.
It was. Like
it felt an impossible mountain to climb.
But I didn't want to let you down. So I'm like, yes, we'll do it. And I'm scared, but we'll do it. And then when I would drop the ball on commitments or not being an actual partner in our business... I didn't want you to find out about it, and so I would sometimes say, yeah, I did it, when I didn't. Or other times I'd just like avoid the question.
Or shift the blame, or it wasn't because of me.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sort of stuff. And even And I never screamed or yelled at you, very rarely.
Okay.
Like, my response wasn't immediate anger, but my response was very often disappointment.
Yeah.
Right? And we all have different personality types. We all have different needs. And you are much more sensitive than I am. But along with your childhood, your previous life experiences, that acceptance, that need for acceptance was very acute on your radar.
Yeah.
That is where you got your worth from as a person. That's how you filled your love bucket. That imitation love of you accept me, I'm acceptable, therefore I have worth. And that's not a challenge I had. So if I had experienced disappointment from you, it would have been,
You would have handled it completely differently.
it would have been water off a duck's back, because that's not how I filled my love bucket. I didn't fill my love bucket with acceptance. I filled my love bucket with accomplishment.
Yeah, and that's a lot of where your worth comes from, and your value of yourself. And I realized just now, having this conversation, I had a slew of dating failures of people breaking my heart, like, over and over and over again. I was almost never the heartbreaker. And so that's kind of more deeply internalized.
Right.
From a romantic partner, such a strong need for validation, such a strong need for acceptance. And you did accept me and you did love me.
Right.
But I had a hard time with your frustration. But you brought up that forgiveness and trust are not the same thing. And I remember once asking you to forgive me, and you told me that you had, that wasn't the issue. The issue is that you didn't trust me. And that I had to make some changes, and do a lot of work to not lose our marriage, not because of abuse or infidelity, but because a marriage is a partnership.
Right.
And we weren't a partnership, and we weren't a team.
Right.
And it's something I'm still working on, but what really started with is what is necessary to rebuild trust. And in my case, I had so often confused good man equals good husband. And when you told me you being a good man was never in question.
Right.
Right? The issue is, are we a partnership? And that was such a wake-up call for me. That the insecurities that were holding me back and the excuses that I was making were actually having the opposite effect that I wanted. The excuses I was making, I was hoping that you would be lenient, or that you would see, like, I'm trying, or this or that. And
Because I definitely want to be the judge in our relationship.
Yeah, right. But what it really was doing was I wasn't taking full ownership. And I would take ownership in the sense of saying it, like, I would recognize things that were mine and I would own them, but actually making the changes.
Right.
And that's why I tell people that
it going into the action mode. Right?
Yeah.
And words are important, don't get me wrong, but we really have to pay attention to what our behaviors saying, and looking at the behaviors of our spouse. And if the words and the behaviors aren't matching up, like, there's still integrity that needs to be addressed. Like, there's still honesty.
Yeah.
Like, this isn't working for me. And you're saying it's not working for you, but then your actions are saying that it is absolutely working for you because you're continuing to do that.
Well, that's why the best apology is change behavior. Change behavior is hard, especially because in my case, it was never laziness. It was never like not working hard. Like, I would bust my butt and just feel like I wasn't moving the needle. And the biggest reason for me personally is because I was trapped in my way of doing things. It wasn't, and so I had to completely adapt and shift how I managed my life so that I could show up as a partner. Because as far as, like, actually just working, like, that wasn't an issue. Now, this is very personal, and this is very our situation. In your case, forgive and forget. You can forgive, absolutely. You can forgive even if your relationship doesn't last, because forgiveness is letting go of bitterness. It's letting go of bile, and it's not something you do once. It's something you do every single time those feelings come up. Forgetting, I don't really believe in forgetting. I believe in moving forward. I think your history is your history. There's no magical pill that just, like, makes things go away. It's there. Like, the things that have happened between us are there, and they're always going to be a part of who we are. Moving forward requires change. It requires building trust. And then it requires, in our case, I do like that what we've gone through can be used to help other people. So we're putting it out there for you. Speaking of imitation love versus real love, the idea that sex fixes everything. Look, sex can be a wonderful part of a balanced breakfast, right? Of an actual healthy relationship.
Well, it can be something that feeds and nurtures your relationship if given freely and in a place where both partners feel safe, loved, and respected.
Right.
If it is a this for that, if you do this is for me, so then I give you sex,
Yeah.
that's something completely different.
Yeah. Well, and also trying to use it as the glue or trying to use it to save a relationship is also not going to last. But we're going to go into that more in this video and why and what to do instead. There's so many aspects that we couldn't cover given time constraints on this video, and there's so many things that are personalized to your unique situation. If you're going through something similar to what we've laid out today, if you're trying to heal and reconnect in your marriage, or in your long-term relationship, you can meet with a member of our team. We have complimentary 15-minute discovery calls with the therapist on our staff. The link is in the description of this video. As always, like, subscribe, ring that little bell, ringy-dingy, so you get notified every time we have a new video, and keep shining because we need your light. Necesitamos tu luz. Oh look, here comes that other video.
It's a good video.
It's the sex video.
What could go wrong?
It's the video about sex. There's a difference.